The polar vortex is set to arrive next week with three separate shots of Arctic air and two winter storms. Let's take a look at the jet stream between now and the 7th time frame. That first initial surge of Arctic air will be plunging southbound. So if you live within this vicinity just north of there, you're going to be in that Arctic air and seeing the probabilities of snow and even some ice with that first snowstorm. Then we get a second surge of Arctic air heading into the middle of next week. That will also combine with a more active southern branch of the jet stream, and that will set the stage for winter weather probabilities all the way down into the deep south as well as into the southeast. And that storm looks to diverse up into the east coast with more of a Miller type A snowstorm developing. So if you are new to the channel and like detailed weather breakdowns, hit the subscribe button and you're in. You get all my daily content on this channel. And I appreciate each and every one of you that helped me reach my goal of 250,000 subscribers by the end of the year. I definitely did that yesterday in a big way. Greatly appreciate each and every one of you. Happy New Year's Eve, everyone. So let's take a look back of the month of December, because now we're heading into the last day of the year, rolling the calendar into 2025. Here has how December has played out. So we started pretty cold across the central and eastern two-thirds. The air masses have modified a little bit, but predominantly it's been well above average for those areas across the west and much of the central U.S., less above average as you got through into the Ohio Valley. But the colder shots have been into across the East Coast, and even Florida is going to end below average for the month of December. Much of the Carolinas and much of the mid-Atlantic, as well as into the Northeast. But now let's flip the calendar. So we've got these temperatures this morning. We're still in that milder air mass waiting for that Arctic front. So there's technically not much Arctic air around. These are, actually above average temperatures for what you would normally feel for the last day of December. But a lot of that is going to change, but not until we get into, they say, that 4th and 5th time frame. So right now, it is fairly quiet. There's not much activity heading in. We are going to be seeing a line of showers and thunderstorms that's highlighted across the Ohio Valley. This will continue to lift up into the Northeast. It will have some wraparound snow on the backside, but there's technically not too much colder air. You can definitely see where the freezing line is right there just to the north of there. So some of this is trying to mix in, but most of this is going to be in the form of rain. But we will have some shots of cooler air, not actually Arctic air, but as we head into, say, the 2nd, 3rd, 4th time frame, we'll start to see more of that cross-polar flow as that Arctic air mass will start to build up there into the Yukon territories, and then finally break the dam, if you will, and start plunging southbound. Unfortunately, most of you guys that live west, say for those areas across the Pacific Northwest, much of the western states, Arizona, the desert Southwest, into New Mexico, you're going to miss out on a lot of this Arctic air, Utah into Colorado. It's mainly going to be east of the Continental Divide and then plunging southbound and then shifting east as we get deeper into that second week of January. But we're significant, I think it gets into this weekend. So by the time we head into that 5th time frame of January, we'll be tracking that Arctic air plunging southbound. At the same time, we'll be looking at this negatively tilted trough setting up over portions of Texas and the deep south, with the low pressure center highlighted across Oklahoma. So it's going to be a pretty significant day. So you got your colder air to the north, say, of this boundary. You've got the warm sector to the south. So as this system dives in and becomes more negatively tilted, yes, unfortunately, we are going to be producing more showers and thunderstorms. Some of that activity could actually even turn severe into portions of the Dixie Valley region for those portions of Arkansas, Louisiana, getting into the Mississippi. I think it's kind of starting off more of a warmer rain in North Texas, will become more of a chillier rain as that Arctic blast comes in. But the low pressure center will be significant because that is going to set the stage for more or less kind of a battle zone, if you will, as that Arctic air continues to plunge southbound. So you've got the warmer anomalies pulling further south. You got the higher dew points. You got the lift with the negatively tilted trough that's going to be coming in. That will create the lift mechanism that's going to produce the showers and thunderstorms. And further off, you're into the warm sector, you are going to be turning those storms to severe storms. But the Arctic air will be showing up on the map. And now we're talking 20, 30 degrees below average temperatures. I mean, heading into the month of January, it's already your coldest month, right? So now we're going to add an Arctic blast. Now we're going to add some polar vortex disruptions into the mix. That's going to be pretty significant, right? So yeah, so when you're talking 20 to 35 below average temperatures pulling into North Dakota, that's going to be downright frigid up there. And that's the Arctic air mass, at least the first surge that will start plunging southbound and also east back into those areas of the Carolinas, reinforcing that colder shot of air that you've been under for most of December. But here's the setup on the surface map. So we'll have that low pressure center. This is the lift. So we'll likely have some rain producing into North Texas, down into Southeast Texas. Some of that could likely turn severe into Louisiana, back into Arkansas, as well as into Mississippi. But we'll set up a pretty significant battle zone with that warm air advection coming in from the south, cold in from the north. We'll have that overrunning type setup, and that could be setting up a significant ice storm that's going to be coming up on Sunday, heading into Monday. And just to the north of there, we've got heavy snow. So there were the tighter isobars. That's where we're going to be having the higher winds and the heavier snows. Some of these snows could be producing even some 1 to 2 inch per hour snowfall rates with that significant low pressure continued to deepen. So yes, this could extend all the way into the, say, even in the Oklahoma City region, up into Kansas, as well as into Missouri, back into Illinois. Further south, it's just going to be, unfortunately, just all ice and be a significant problems into Sunday and to Monday, and that will swing across as that Arctic air continues to plunge southbound. So these areas just to the north of this red line will likely not get above freezing all day long because of the Arctic air continues to plunge southbound. So I'm talking to you into Illinois, into Indiana, essentially Ohio, back into areas of Kentucky where they're coming off, where you get that ice and then you'll have snow on the backside, and this system will lift up into the northeast. We're talking Baltimore, into the DC region, and to Delaware will likely get mixed into the snow by then, as this continues to lift up into the northeast. And with that first initial shot of Arctic air, you're going to feel it in a big way. I mean, so this is the coldest air mass of the season, obviously, because we've been pretty warmer than average for the month of December. But yeah, we're talking wind chills well below zero, if not dangerously frigid up there into Canada, building into the negative 30 range, folks. But the negative teens build into Kansas, as well as into back into single digits, feels like, in Oklahoma. Even teens approaching into the, say, North Texas. So yeah, you're going to be feeling it. And in Shreveport, 21 feels like. So that's the initial setup of what going to be a step down process and a much colder air masses. That's the first intrusion, and I'm expecting 2 more to come in for next week. But unfortunately, that will set the stage for a significant ice storm setting up across portions of Oklahoma, especially there into Kansas, getting into Missouri, the southern Illinois region, into Kentucky. That could be some treacherous travel, dangerous, even some crippling ice potential over 1 inch. So this looks ugly, guys, because it has a lot of water content to be able to work with. So we could be looking at likely some significant power outages, a lot of tree damage, and just treacherous travel for those areas into Sunday as well as into Monday. But there's the snow swath with that first initial storm that's going to be setting up between, say, now and the 7th. It really gets going into about the 5th. But here's going to be your snow swath. This is the actual blend. This is just your model blend right now, but it kind of gives you an idea of the placement on some of where the heavier snows will lie, with that cross-polar flow coming out of British Columbia, going through across the Intermountain West, through the Dakotas, back into Kansas, through into Nebraska. And that will likely swing across Missouri into Iowa, those areas into Illinois, Indiana, Kentucky, into Tennessee, getting back into Virginia, into West Virginia, as well as into Virginia, and all the way up into the East Coast, as well as into Mid-Atlantic, into the Northeast between that, say, that 1st and that 7th time frame. But the second shot of Arctic air has to go over that snowpack. So I do feel this is why the models actually see in that snow on the ground, because that's not going to be melted, right? You're still going to be below freezing for the entire day. And then that second shot will have this air mass even colder than what it's going to be if that air mass didn't have that snow to go over. So that is also going to help this system when the southern branch of the jet stream down there in Texas starts to get active, to produce even some wintry precipitation. Because here's the overall jet stream. So you have your polar jet from the north diving in from that Arctic air from the north, and then you'll have your southern branch of the jet stream start to become active. And this is not until, say, the 8th time frame of the middle of next week. And so when that does, that will fall into this above average precipitation. So most of this polar vortex that's coming down does have a lot of water content associated with it. So that's why we're looking for increased snow probabilities, increased ice probabilities, even for those areas, even into the deep south and into the southeast, because things get really interesting for those areas that live further south, especially there into Texas. By the time we get into the middle of next week, yes, we could be looking at some snow starting to fly down there into West Texas, North Texas, Northeast Texas, as that cold air will continue to plunge southbound. Even the Climate Prediction Center is already set up a swath of heavy snow potentially across North Texas and to Northeast Texas, getting into Arkansas, Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, getting into Tennessee. And that will swing up the East Coast through the Ohio Valley again, adding to those totals like I showed you. So we're adding to that first initial storm that you're going to get to the north, and this will likely get mixed in with even some more significant snows falling across West Virginia into Pennsylvania. So the setup as we go into, say, Thursday of next week, yes, we've got the heavy snows that will be producing back over areas of Oklahoma into North Texas, back into Arkansas, as this system will continue to lift northeast, and then producing more snow for those areas, with yet another, that last likely reinforced shot of Arctic air will be plunging southbound. So some of this could likely have some snow on the ground still by then. And if that does happen, that'll make this air mass even colder. So each air mass will likely be colder with this system that will be coming in and then laying the ground with some snow. So if you get some snow in your area, it might not melt for an extended period of time, as this system will be coming up the East Coast, back into the Ohio Valley, and yes, unfortunately producing more ice potential into the Carolinas as well as into South Carolina. And then there's that last reinforced shot of Arctic air that will likely come down the pike all the way down into Mexico and then slingshot eastward. So it's feeling the effects of all that snow on the ground in the middle part of the country, and even likely down there into the southern plains, and even into portions of the southeast. Can't roll out some snow with this particular setup, because this is going to be slingshotting eastbound and set up some pretty cold anomalies for the southeast. Look at how extreme that is, guys. This is a pretty significant air mass that's going to be on the table, and with this combined 3 Arctic systems, I think, that arrives on Sunday, another one comes on Monday, and then a reinforcing shot on Friday. All that adds up to pretty significant cold and bitter cold if you live east of the Continental Divide, and really extreme as you head into the Tennessee Valley and to the southeast as far as below average where you typically be, for this time of year, which is already cold as it is. So evenly on the ensembles going into the European ensembles, look how significant this is. I mean, obviously the red is that's 100% probability you're guaranteed going to get snow, but even further south into Oklahoma and even Texas, that's 50% right now for North Texas. That's a lot, right? They don't really get much snow down there. So this is pretty significant for your winter weather lovers that like to see at least some winter weather, even for those areas to cross the deep south and into the southeast. So guys, I appreciate you guys watching. Do like this video. Definitely hit the subscribe button and catch the next update. Why I protect you before and after storm.